Welcome to Showing Up Anyway, the podcast for people who are not perfect. On this show, we talk about intuitive eating, fitness without obsession, and healing your relationship with food and your body. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. In the face of everything that's happening right now, you showed up. You're listening to another episode. I'm so proud of you for that. I've been conflicted thinking about what I wanted today's topic to be. On one hand, I want to stay on theme with this season, talking about your relationship with food, hunger, your body. On the other, I feel compelled to speak about recent events happening in our country, across the world. I've never really minced words about my feelings on this stuff. I'm watching the news just like you, scrolling social media, talking to friends, and we all probably feel a mix of tightness in our chest, a knot in our stomach, a heaviness in our heart. And whether that's because of the ICE raids in LA, across the country, the thorough dismantling of democracy, or, the newly reported bombing of Iran by Israel and the potential of World War III, there's just a lot going on right now. It feels like it's all hitting at once. And I think it's really a normal response to feel anxious, outraged, helpless, and for some of us, deeply unsafe. And when your community is hurting, when you or the people you care about are under what seems like a coordinated attack, when you're watching systematic violence unfold on your phone screen daily, that's going to show up in how you feel. And it's going to show up in how you cope and even how you eat. So if you've been stress eating or eating for comfort, or you've lost your appetite altogether, I just want you to know that response is valid. It makes sense. When the world feels unsafe, when you don't know what's coming next, of course you reach for something that's going to help keep you grounded. So that's where I'm going to go with today's podcast. I figure because of the rapidly evolving news cycle, and for the fact that a lot of you might come to this podcast for a break from the news, maybe I wouldn't touch on all that stuff directly, but it provides us a good opportunity to talk about something still a little relevant: emotional eating. And so I've decided to call this episode Emotional Eating in Turbulent Times. Because to be honest, I think this is something that everyone struggles with to some degree. So we'll talk a little about how it starts, why it happens, and how we can manage the overwhelming urge to do so in a world where so much is happening. Now, before we get too deep into it, I would love if you took a moment to send this podcast to like three people who you know are struggling today. It doesn't have to be struggling with emotional eating. It could be just struggling with the news or with coping. I think that the subjects that we cover in this podcast could really help somebody that you care about, hopefully in the same way that they've helped you. We are certainly growing in our podcast adolescence, but that's going to help us grow even more. I would really appreciate that. Now, the first thing you need to know is what you think might be emotional eating also might not be. Like we talked about in the last episode, it's really hard to get in touch with your hunger if you're not prioritizing self-care. Because until those needs are met, there's really no way to accurately gauge what's emotional and what's simply an unmet human need. So are you sleeping enough? Are you eating enough nourishing foods? Are you stimulated creatively, intellectually, and physically? Do you feel heard, understood, and accepted and able to kind of express your feelings? Are you setting proper boundaries with people who drain you? Are you able to rest without guilt? You might think, well, I'm always eating because I've been really sad lately. But in reality, it's because you're actually burnt out at work, right? And so you'd want to work on your work-life balance first. Once you're sure you're getting your basic needs met, then we can maybe look at how to heal from emotional eating. Now, you also need to know that emotional eating is not just one thing. It's a spectrum from not eating at all because stress or grief killed your appetite to eating past your fullness, hoping for comfort or relief. But there's a lot of other emotions that it covers too. Some are obvious and some are a little bit more sneaky. Some are negative emotions and some are positive emotions. So let's talk about some of them. I've tried to sort these feelings into categories to try and help you out, so we'll see if this makes sense, okay? First, you've got your stressful and anxious feelings. Eating to help calm yourself down, reaching for food when you're feeling worried or anxious, using food to self-soothe when you're feeling upset or emotionally overwhelmed. Number two, you've got your sad and lonely feelings, okay? Eating to cope with mild depression or if you're feeling upset. Turning to food when you're feeling unloved or using it as a friend. Using it as a form of comfort when things are feeling especially emotionally heavy. Number three, you've got boredom and lack of stimulation. Eating just to pass the time, using a snack as a distraction. Eating while procrastinating or delaying something. Number four would be feelings like frustration and anger. So using food to help blow off steam, or maybe to help loosen the reins if you live a really perfectionist life. Number 5, they're not all negative, okay? So feelings of joy, celebration, and reward, like eating because you're happy or you're excited, celebrating with food at different events or family gatherings, giving yourself a treat after accomplishing something. And I think the last one would be, feelings of emptiness or maybe lack of fulfillment. So if you find yourself eating to feel like a spiritual or emotional hunger, or something that food really can't fill, but you still try. As you can see, there's just a huge landscape of feelings that emotional eating can help you cope with. So like we've done in past episodes, we're going to take another assessment because I really want you to look a little bit inwards, okay, and see how these feelings might affect you. So go ahead and grab your pen and paper, or you can just make a mental list if you don't want to do all that. And we're going to keep track of the yeses that might apply to you, okay? I tend to reach for food when I'm feeling frustrated, stressed, or disappointed in myself. Sometimes I eat to avoid dealing with what's really going on. There are times when life feels out of control. When problems come up, I have a hard time making a plan and sticking to it. I have a hard time saying no, even when I really want to. I don't always feel supported by my family when I'm going through something. I don't like to burden my friends, so I usually keep my problems to myself. It's tough for me to open up about my feelings. I can be pretty impulsive, especially when emotions are high. I worry a lot about how people see me. I feel pressure to make other people happy, even at my own expense. I don't always feel secure or grounded in my life. Stressful situations tend to throw me off balance. When I'm overwhelmed, eating feels like the only thing I can control. I don't yet fully trust myself around food. I often feel hopeless or stuck. I have a hard time putting my needs first. I'm always trying to please others. It's hard for me to stop eating even when I know I'm full. A lot of the time, my life just feels chaotic and all over the place. I tend to eat things I shouldn't when no one's watching, like sneaking candy or snacks when I'm alone. All right, how'd that feel? Now, the more yeses you had, the more likely you're using food to cope with your life. Now, what I don't want you to come away from this thinking is, oh my God, I'm such an emotional eater. I'm doing so bad. I should be ashamed. Truly, don't feel that way, okay? This world is hard enough, okay? You don't need to make it harder punishing yourself for doing the best you could with what you knew. I just want you to be able to look at something and say, these are the areas that I need to improve on, and I'm going to help you do that. So what are the tools that we can use to cope with your feelings instead of turning to food? One, by providing yourself a little extra care, okay? Yes, the self-care, which we've talked about a number of times, but also some further nurturance, okay? Nurturance takes self-care to the next level. So I'm talking about reading a book, playing with your pets, buying yourself some flowers, getting a massage, taking a walk in nature, playing a board game with friends, okay? Things that fill your cup. You're asking yourself, what am I craving emotionally? Can I meet that craving in a way that doesn't involve food or that involves food, but also something else? Second thing is sitting with your feelings, okay? This is probably the hardest, but I think it's often the most healing, okay? There's a bit of a process. So the next time that you want to eat, but you're not physically hungry, I want you to try this. Set a timer for, let's say, 3 to 5 minutes, okay? You're going to find a place you can sit down or lay down that's quiet, not a lot of distractions. You can close your eyes if you want to. It doesn't need to be a full meditation, okay? But I just want you to put your phone down. Just sit with your feelings for a little while. Think about what feelings or emotional triggers you might be experiencing, and then ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? What do I need? Hopefully, that space, that quiet time will give you the opportunity to give you the answers to those questions. You might figure out you need more quality time with your partner, or you might need some entertainment like a movie or a concert, or maybe just that quiet time to yourself really helped in itself. And if you can identify that and cope with that feeling, address it in another way, congratulations, you've successfully avoided emotional eating that time. But if at the end of that 5 minutes, you still want to eat, that's okay too. Doesn't mean you're failing or anything. The pause itself is progress. I can almost guarantee that before now, you had never tried that before, right? You've gone straight from feeling to fixing. But the more that you pause, the more skilled you become at identifying and meeting your needs without just defaulting to food. And the final tool is finding a non-destructive distraction. Because let's be honest, I mean, sometimes you just need to find something to do and get your mind off of things, especially in a political climate where there are so many things happening. Sometimes it's just nice to turn your brain off. So find something that you enjoy and do that thing. Okay, maybe it's reading a book or playing video games or putting some Legos together or going to do an outdoor activity like pickleball or roller skating or just going and enjoying a walk in nature, Now, sometimes the best offense is a good defense, okay? Any sports fans? So instead of waiting for these things to happen and dealing with them, we can also do our best to prepare and prevent them from happening at all. If you know that you're about to enter into a situation that's very stressful for you, maybe that's a holiday with family or a work event or a long trip, make a plan, okay? Here's some of my favorite tips. If you're going to spend time with family, book a hotel if you can instead of staying with them, okay? That way you have some built-in boundaries. If you need to get away, you can. Bring a journal so you can express your feelings in a safe way, especially if there's nobody around there that you can really talk to. Bring some food you enjoy, maybe some snacks that'll help keep you on track so you don't go too long without eating, or ones that are just easily accessible if you're in a house that maybe doesn't have them. Take some walking shoes with you so you can get out and clear your head if you need to, or maybe just some noise-canceling headphones so you can tune people out. And then lastly, I would say plan an exit strategy. Fake a business emergency if you need to just GTFO, okay? Also, before you go, you can do some visualization, some rehearsal. Okay, if you know that you get the same comments, you always get asked the same questions by that family member, maybe it's mom, dad, grandma, I don't know, practice your answers. Rehearse your boundary setting. You could say, I prefer we don't touch on that subject. Can we talk about something else? Or it makes me uncomfortable when you ask me that. Why don't we talk about what's going on with you? That way, instead of just going to the kitchen and putting something in our mouth to avoid uncomfortable conversations, we practice putting boundaries in place as a form of self-care and self-preservation. And I know a lot of you are uncomfortable putting boundaries in place, but I want to tell you something that my therapist told me. Boundaries are not there to keep other people out. They are put in place to allow people in a way where both parties feel safe and comfortable. Let me leave you with a final reminder that you don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to respond to every crisis with a perfectly mindful understanding of your hunger cues or a perfectly balanced meal. You are allowed to be a full human being, hurting, feeling, coping, and doing your best. And if your best looks like some deep breaths when you're feeling anxious, if it's just checking in with your body one time today or choosing rest instead of restriction, that's powerful. That's progress. Right now, the world is heavy. The worry, the rage, the grief, it's real. Pay attention to it. Don't tune it out, but also pay attention to you. Pay attention to the signals that your body is sending, to the places where you're hungry for more than food, to the parts of you asking for care. This is not about doing everything right. It's about staying connected to the world, to your people, and most importantly, to yourself. You're already doing something brave by listening. Let that be enough for today. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Showing Up Anyway. You can find it for free on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. And wherever you're listening, if you like the show, I'd love it if you gave me a 5-star review, because that does help other people find the show, and hopefully it'll help change their life just like you're looking to change yours. If you're listening on Spotify, though, you can follow me and tap the bell icon so you get notifications when new episodes come out. I'm Coach Adam. Remember, when things get challenging, keep showing up anyway.